Maybe can you just quickly recap the problems with Alberta's campaign finance laws?
There's a lot of problems with Alberta's campaign finance laws, but one of the main things is the lack of transparency of money in politics. This is both on the campaign finance side and on the lobbying side. Under Alberta's campaign finance laws and lobby laws, but especially the campaign finance law, there isn't hardly any disclosure of money in politics until after the election.
Right.
And that is useless. If candidates and outside groups only report where they got their money 6 months after the election, that provides voters with no useful information when they need it. Voters need to know if a certain ad is being paid for by a labor union or an oil company or who's paying for it, because that information is useful information in judging the merits of that ad. But those ads take place before the election, and they're designed to influence how you vote. If you're denied access to that information until after the election, it's just useless. And so that's one of the biggest shortcomings of Alberta's laws. It just doesn't provide any kind of real-time transparency of money in politics. And I want to emphasize, in this era of the internet, there's absolutely no excuse for that. It's not expensive, it's easy to use, the internet provides instant information to everyone. Almost everyone knows how to use the internet. Setting up programs so you get the campaign finance records on the internet's not a problem. And it provides real-time reporting and real-time disclosure. In this era, it's unbelievable that Alberta doesn't make use of it.
That's great. Yeah, thank you. You mentioned that there's been changes to the Alberta finance laws. Can you briefly describe what those changes are and how it will affect the upcoming elections?
There's been a little bit more disclosure just recently done under Alberta, and some of it is okay. It doesn't really deal with the problem that much. But for instance, party committees now under Alberta law have to file quarterly reports before the election. So that's good. That provides voters with at least sort of a sampling of where the money's coming from before they vote.
Right.
That's useful. And it also has set up some disclosure for leadership committees and leadership contests, but only after the election again. However, prior to the new law, there was no disclosure of leadership contests. It was entirely up to the parties to decide what they wanted to do. So there's been some improvements. Oh, also, another improvement is it's defined like outside ads for these outside groups, when they actually have to register, which they didn't have to register before.
Interesting.
And so the new Alberta law says if an outside group is trying to promote or attack a candidate or a party, then they have to register and disclose half a year after the election. But at least now they have to register and disclose.
Right.
Prior to that, they didn't have to. So those are some improvements, but it's so little that really the Alberta campaign finance law, it really does stand out as one of the worst in Canada at this point.
Wow. And how does it compare to the other provinces?
I can compare it to the national Canadian, but I don't know the other provinces. The national Canadian law is actually a bit of a model when it comes to lobby disclosure as well as campaign finance disclosure. It lacks providing financial information on the lobby disclosure side, so that's unfortunate. However, it does have real-time disclosure, periodic disclosure of lobbying activity, and when it comes to campaign finance activity, it does have pre-election disclosures. And it's on an internet website that's easy to use and very accessible. So the national Canadian system tends to be pretty good, and Alberta is not.
Yeah. What would that process look like if Alberta were to move towards more transparency? What kind of time length are we looking at?
When Alberta might get around to doing this?
Yeah, if they were to make those decisions, what does that process look like?
Well, there is a bit of a scandal going on right now with Alberta politics, and it's now thrown the dominant party into chaos, actually. And they are facing an election in which they might be turned out by the Wild Rose Party. And so this provides an opportunity for some significant changes. You know, I do know the Wild Rose Party is very conservative, but I understand that they do believe in some campaign finance reforms, even though it's sort of unstated at this point what they support. So that in itself offers an opportunity for change. The mere fact that there is scandal going on, and and there was a resignation of the head of the Conservative Party, reform comes on the heels of scandal very frequently. So, whether it's Wild Rose or whether it's the scandal itself, there is the opportunity for reform right now.
That's great. Okay. And one last question. For individuals that are politically engaged, but maybe not working with union groups or groups that lobby, how can they contribute or encourage or make steps towards political or reform in that sense?
For citizens who are not engaged?
Yeah, for citizens, like just regular citizens, can they write the MLP? Like what different action steps can they take?
Well, first of all, expressing resentment of the fact that they're denied access to information about the elections.
Yeah.
It really is most effectively done when citizens do engage and they actually work with groups, that are trying to get things done. But even if someone doesn't want to participate in a bit of a movement to make this happen, if they talk about it, even just talking about it with their friends, with their family, with colleagues, and letting the whole idea, the hostility towards, being denied access to information, foment, that helps. But of course, I would encourage every citizen to get involved and engage.
Voice more powerful with others.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay, great. Thank you so much for answering my questions.
Sure.